Hey, Rylan here at the Vic Shop. Today I want to talk to you about Victory starters and how to rebuild them. A lot of you folks may have a bike. Actually, they use the same starter in all the Victory models from 99 to 17. Sometimes the case was a little bit different, but it's basically all the same. And after a number of years, you may notice that it's got a nasty noise when you push the button, like I call it the goose squawk. And it just makes a terrible noise, and everyone looks at you and goes, Jesus, what's wrong with your bike? And you may go, oh, it needs a new starter. Well, it may need a new starter, or it could need rebuilt. And so I just thought I'd touch on that subject here quick today. This is my bar trying out rig. It's a cross-country frame with the exhaust on here, and a lot of guys, they are worried about getting the starter out. I'm not gonna lie, it's a pain in the ass. But it's completely doable. A simple remove and replace procedure. You know, take off the fairing if it has it, the lower fairing, and then you would take off the floorboard, get the battery out, the battery box, and kind of get the oil cooler out of the way. And the trick of the whole deal is to separate the exhaust at that junction where the front and rear cylinder meet. Take the nuts off the head and slide this front piece forward. This is just on the Visions and the cross countries that you can do this. And ooh, if I can struggle to get this one out of here. It's not easy, especially if it's been rusted into place. Pop that out. Get your floorboard and the rail off, and the starter will pop right out. Let me get a closer look here. So, starter is down in there, and two 10mm bolts, and then a little whack of the mallet, and it'll pop it out free of the case. And then we bring it to the bench and start rebuilding. Okay, now you can see we got the starter here on the bench. Like I said earlier, they've remained relatively unchanged since '99. Just a little bit of change in the case. This is a later model case here. And you can see it's split into three sections. There's the two end caps and then the middle section. This one's been taken apart just so it makes the detail easier to show. So basically what happens with these is there's a couple of bushings that the shaft rides on, a bearing and a bushing I should say, and they get dirty and dried out, and then it can make all kinds of noise. Now if you let it go too long, the bearing and the bushing will wear out, and then no amount of grease is going to fix it. But if you catch it early, this is great, easy maintenance, and can fix a lot of noisy starter issues. Something to note before we take it apart, it's got a couple of marks in the case so that you can see how it goes back together. And sometimes I'll take a paint marker and even just put a little piece of paint on there so I know that it's clocked correctly and coming apart and going together correctly. So then there's two bolts here, pop those out, and then what I would recommend you do is put your finger on the top here, and to keep that shaft down while you pop off this end cap here. Let's move this out of the way. And so you can see this end cap's got a bearing in there, and that a lot of times will be a bunch of crap in here too. Like, so you'd want to blow this out with some compressed air, and then I you know, inspect the bearing, make sure it's all good and clean. This one looks all right. Could use a little grease, so then I get just some all-purpose. I like marine style grease because it's got more moisture getting rid of properties, like the technical term there. So then I just get a little dab of grease and, you know, work it into the needle bearings there, and that's how we'd fix that. Clean them up, lube them up. So that's that. And then we want to take off the center section next. Again, I hold this down into the bottom of the case. This is magnetic. It's kind of a bear to get apart. But that leaves that, and you want to keep these together. They'll come apart. So we'll set that aside for now. And this is the magnets in there. You want to clean this out real nice as well. Make sure the magnets are good. There's no damage in there. Get all the dust and dirt and everything out of there. Clean it up real nice. And then the hard part would be this. This particular starter is just smoked and you can see something must have come loose in here and damaged some of the wiring and the protective coating, and this one was locked up. And a lot of times if you have a starter that's locked up, you know, an old timer will say, oh, I'll just smack it with a hammer, and what that's doing is dislodging any tiny little bit of debris that's kind of holding this up, and then it can spin freely again. But of course there's a reason that debris got in there, and if you were here to smell this thing, it would smell like burning plastic. It's pretty nasty. So there's another bearing in this side that we want to get to. Again, I've had this apart, but usually if you were to do this, these bushings would come flying out because there's a spring that's supposed to be behind there, and boy, it looks like a mess. And so this is the hardest part, is putting this part back together. So again, oh sorry, there's supposed to be a couple little washers here. You would pull these washers out and they go on the end like so, and then again clean it all out real nice, blow it out with compressed air, and then we throw some grease in there, and that's the bushing side, and that's just a bushing in there that needs lubricated. And then the trick is to getting this back together. You can see all the brushes here. You know, these will be spring loaded with all these little springs. It's, you know, mechanic's worst nightmare. You take something apart and it's got a bunch of springs in there and it all goes flying. Well, it's not as hard as it initially appears. Anyway, so you put that spring back in. You can see it's got a little piece that goes in the spring. Keep it centered in its slide. And so you got 4 of these little suckers that are spring loaded, and you have to compress all 4 of them to get the armature back in there. And so what I do is I get some paper clips, real heavy duty, big paper clips, not your wussy little paper clips, and bend them in such a way that they make clips. It's kind of like if you're a trim carpenter with a corner clip. And let's see if we can see it way down in there. So I take this clip, and there's this little hole right here where you can stick it, and it holds it in, and then you come around this side, and it kind of just got some tension here, and it clips on the back. This one's not, it needs a little work. I've already used it a couple times. But anyway, you get 4 of those on there, and it holds back all the bushings, and then it's all clean and greased, and you remember to put those 2 little washers back on there. These 2 little washers here, this should all be cleaned and prepared, and then you got all 4 of your little clips, hopefully all aligned, and stick it back in there. Of course, it's going to be a pain in the butt when I'm filming. So pop the springs out, or pop the clips out. Again, there'll be 4 of those, and then you're ready to go back together. So that's all good, and then we would slide this down on top. Again, keep pushing down on this so it doesn't pop out and force you to redo all your work. And then remember, it's got those little marks, and it'll pop down. Oh, you heard it there, onto the marks. And then we take the newly greased and cleaned end cap, stick that on there. Let's see if we can find, oh, there's the groove. Stick those suckers back in there. Spin them down, and away you go. Stick that starter back in there, and be amazed at how quiet it is now. Good luck, happy wrenching.